to now Stag Hill. Stag Hill is the location of what had been the Queen's Council Camp, Camp Man. It opened in 1930. At that time, there were many camps that had an eternal flame. They went by different names. The Fire of Cheer. We know of one at Camp Brooklyn in Kanawaki. When they moved to TMR, Shashuga still kept the light glowing and built a pavilion. A fire would be lit on the first day of summer camp, and it would represent the joy, the cheerfulness, the friendships, that kind of bonding experience here at camp. And then on the last day of camp, it would be extinguished, and the spirit of cheerfulness would be brought back home. And then in 1936, Swanakee decided that there should be an everlasting fire here at Camp Man. They lit the first fire in 1936. It probably was on this location or somewhere close to here. There was an Indian ceremony coming across Crystal Lake. But over the course of that very summer of 1936, the director and the council executive decided to build something more substantial. This was, you know, a point of pride. They asked one of the scoutmasters, A.G. Jeffrey, was asked to design something. And he was an engineer with Bell Labs, Troop 17 in Elmhurst, Queens. And he came up with this idea. And they sent out a campaign to collect stones. And they thought if everyone contributed stones, it would symbolize this cheerfulness and this cooperation. Frank can point out a couple.
We have Pennsylvania, Iowa, Vermont, Utah, New Jersey. There's even one here from Camp Siwanoy. Some foreign countries, Mexico, Chile. Have sent stones, so it's friendship from scouting all over the country and even around the world. This tower is also synonymous with the Order of the Arrow, and we're celebrating the 100th anniversary of the Order of the Arrow in New York City. And one of the projects that we'd like to do is to rehab the tower and bring it back to its original glory by adding the second tier onto the top. So that's a project that we're working on now.
What happened was there was an act of vandalism. I know from my vigil ceremony in 1979, everything was here. We had the flame, we had the bust. Jack used to tell this story of how it was a bust of his brother because he was a Camp Man camper in the 30s. And that when Norman Rockwell came to TMR, he carved a bust of Jack's brother. Well, there's no known sculpture by Norman Rockwell. And Norman Rockwell never did come here. But Jack told great stories.
Oh, absolutely great stories.
But with every great story, there's a kernel of truth. Because the original bust was very much like the bust on the cover of the Boy Scout Handbook in 1936. And that profile was done by Norman Rockwell. And so in '86, when Swanakee went to restore the bust with this current bust, for security reasons, I think they felt it would be more secure if it was mounted directly onto the base of the tower. But really, the whole point of the tower is to host an eternal flame. That's part of the reason why this whole reunion referred to as Rekindle the Flame. This is part of it. Rekindling the flame also is a metaphor for us not being able to see each other. So if we look at the dedication materials, they all talk about the friendships across the reservation. And I think we're all part of the Alumni Association because of that spirit of friendship.
You know, folks are watching this from all over the country, and we want your spirit to be here also. That's why we want to bring the spirit flame back and add the second tier back on and get the eternal flame lit again. So.
The bigger project is also landscape improvements. You know, you're looking at the tower now, but it's really a history of the whole Stag Hill. And there had been a large building called Stag Hall, and this was built in reference to that hall, that it was on center, and then as you exited the hall, it cascaded down, you had the tower, and then you walked down these paths, and then you had, what's quite interesting is a bronze stag. Where did the bronze stag come from? It actually comes from something that predates FDR and TMR and goes back to George Van Allen who had this property prior to 1916. And he had this club called the Sullivan County Turtle Club, and there was a bunch of wealthy printers and lithographers, and they would come here for a week to drink,
Enjoy.
hunt. And so it was a rich man's clubhouse, and then they got this Elks Club bronze elk, just like the one on Queens Boulevard. It sat actually just about here initially in front of Stag Hall, and then when this was built, they decided to locate the Tower of Friendship here, and the stag was then turned around to face the lake, and it existed until the mid-40s. We don't know really what happened, but we have photos through the 40s of it. And so this landscape is a series of levels, and then if you know the site, it cascades right into Crystal Lake, and this beautiful relationship tying the lake, the landscape, the tower, and what had been Stag Hall behind us. Is that we do now have the lodge house.
Yeah.
So, yeah, thank you.